Hi there, how are ya? Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. My name is Johnny Daniel, your Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator all over the United States, but more specifically in 29 Palms, located in 29 Palms, servicing the high desert as well as much of Palm Springs, Banning, Beaumont, you name it. So, with that being said, I'm going to wait for you to come on and get a few things straight. So hold on. Get some water. Hi Cheryl, how are you? I don't know who else is on. It says 2, so hopefully you're starting to feel better. Alright, so couple things. 1, yes, I leave on Friday for onstage. Onstage actually happens Saturday all day, and I come home Sunday. So you will want to pay attention for the blog post on Saturday. I will have some kind of bonus if you order on Saturday, whether it be online, email me, text me, whatever. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to come to the phone, but I will have a bonus for that, so feel free. Secondly, something for everything. Translation, this is the paper pumpkin kit for December. Ordering is now until December 10th, but I want to give you a little bit of a heads up on this. It's going to be called Something for Everything Kit. 13 sentiments in the stamp set. Usually there's about 4, so that's quite a big stamp set that they're going to be offering. There's also going to be 3 full-size card designs, 4 of each, so you're going to get 12 cards, which is awesome because usually it's favors in December. So just a heads up that you can kick off your new year with 12 full cards and a great stamp set. So that is something to look forward to. With that being said, I do not have any other housekeeping except that we are going to be creating tonight a cute snowman card, and I'm going to be teaching you how to do a snow background with water and embossing powder, not Versamark. So with that, I'm going to tip you down and get you started on the creating part. So hold on. Hi Elise, how are you? I don't know who else is on with me, but we're going to get situated here. Hopefully. Alrighty. And I think that's about as good as I'm going to get, in theory. Okay. There we go. So for tonight, we are going to be creating a background with water and embossing powder. Yes, I said water. Secondly, we are also going to be playing with the new, I have copper embossing powder on this, ice stamping glitter tonight. So we've got a couple new things we're going to try and get things off to the races. Okay, so if you're wondering, I've got the Snowman Season Bundle in front of me, as well as the Night of Navy, a spritzer tube with just plain old water in it, not alcohol because it dries too fast. I've got the ice stamping glitter. I've got white Stampin' embossing powder. I've got a white thick card base cut at 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. Okay. Let's see. I have a scratch piece of paper of Whisper White and then a mat of Night of Navy cut at 3 3/4 by 5. Okay. And hopefully you got all that, because I don't know if I could remember that again. But we are gonna get there. All right, so with this, Shauna, you're not on, but you'll catch the replay. The valley goes on the outside, the bump goes on the inside of your card. And we're gonna set this to the side. Okay, so let's see. One other thing, I'm not finding my snail on my table. Hold on. Hold on. Because we can't go without our snail, right? So give me just a half a second. Sorry about that. I'm in the middle of getting stuff staged for on stage, and some of my normal stuff that's up on my bench is in a bag. So, oh well. All right, so what we are gonna do is I'm gonna get the stamping done first, and then at the end I'm gonna do the embossing powder, only because I've got cords coming across and all that. So I want to make sure to get that done last. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm gonna grab my snowman. Okay, and this is all being stamped in Night of Navy to match the cardstock. Okay, and then I'm gonna grab some arms, and I'm gonna grab the little hat that goes with this all at once. And if you don't hear me, I'm getting some more blocks out as I fumble through. So there we go. So we're gonna put one hand on there, one hand on there. Make sure you've got the stamps facing upright. And I say that because when you're running behind, you're late, and on top of everything else, you are trying to get everything done. Stuff happens. I have done many Christmas cards sideways, backwards, and everything else. So if you don't think it can happen to you, it can happen to you. Okay, so that is my snowman all stamped off in Night of Navy. If you want to stamp in color, you'll want to be doing Memento ink for the blends and StazOn ink for the regular markers that we have, the Stampin' Write markers. So I'm going to punch this snowman out. And yes, I'm going to get all the extra pieces, but they're not stamped, so I'm actually going to chuck them. If I can grab this last one. Okay. And then we're going to see how we can punch these. Come on, turn the right way. Okay. So I got to figure out which one got stamped. Okay, so that is here. The rest is trash. There are other ways to do this, but I didn't get that far. So for instance, if you wanted to stamp this all in one, or punch this rather, sorry, in all one time, what you could do is, let me get that out. You could lay your stamps, let's see, all mine are dirty right now, but so what you could do is lay your stamps. I'm just gonna grab a snowman, it's not the right one, but you could lay your stamps on here backwards, line it up, and then put your block over, and then everything should line up. Okay, so that is one way to do it. If you want to have it, I mean, obviously, if I'm only doing one card, it's not that big a deal. But if I'm doing 50 Christmas cards, it's a huge deal if I don't have everything lined up, right? So you want to make sure that you line everything up so you don't have to do it an extra 6 times, because that is going to be a huge ordeal for you. just like I'm having trouble getting the hat. But it's okay. All right, so I've got the hat here. I'm gonna line it up, and if you pinch about halfway down, there's a stopping point for the punch that you'll feel, and you can get it so it doesn't shake around, okay? And then finish afterwards. So there is a way to do it. There's always a way, right? At least usually. All right, so I've got my little trash pile started here, and I will be okay. All right, so I've got my snowman. I have got my little hand, my little, yeah, that's trash. Okay. It is coming together now, isn't it? So I'm gonna grab some glue dots here. And I'm gonna grab my take your pick tool. And I'm gonna grab the piercing side. Because these are so skinny, I don't want to take the chance of possibly ripping them. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm a little bit more gentle than I normally would be. And I think I just put this on the wrong way. Yep, sure did. But hey, guess what? Because it overlaps, I can do it both ways. So what I would want to do is put it on the other side, the inked side, or the wrong side technically. So that way, when I put this on, and it doesn't stick to me, I've got it going the right way. So there we go. So that's my snowman. Now just to put my hat on. Okay. So, all right, glue dot. And then I've got my little cap. Okay, so there's my snowman. Cute, right? But obviously you would want to be more strategic on how you did the punching so you don't have to do it an extra couple times, right? Okay, so alrighty. So with that, now we're gonna do the messy part because I don't think there's anything else. So let me put that away. All right, so what I've got here is I have got my piece of Night of Navy, okay? I've got my spritzer. I've got a tray, just a multi-purpose tray. And I've got my white embossing powder, which I'm gonna unscrew the cap so I am ready to go, okay? So what you're gonna do here, if you wanted bigger drops, you might even have a little bin of water and just be able to grab your fingertips and kind of go like that, especially if you don't have a spritzer, you can still do that. But I do have a spritzer, so what I'm gonna do is get down here like this and make sure it's pretty darn wet, because before with the copper one I had not done that and I really didn't have good coverage for the powder. So what I'm gonna do is just sprinkle this on as much as I possibly can. And then another tip for you when you're doing this is after the powder, leave it in the tray for a while because it's gonna be a little bit damp. So if you leave it overnight to dry, then you can put your powder, not clumpy, back in your jar. But don't put it back in right away. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. All right, so got quite a bit of powder left on this. So it was saturated more than I thought. So I'm just gonna flip some of this powder off. Okay, and if you don't like the way it looks, you can always finger some of it off, or you can take a paintbrush or a sponge. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can do it. But because I'm doing a snowy background, I'm just gonna say that it's gonna snow a little more and it will be just fine. So I'm gonna grab my heat tool And I'm just gonna start drying the paper and also melting the embossing powder. Now realize too, as your paper dries, you're gonna lose some of that powder. So, you know, mine looks completely covered, right? But in the end, it's only gonna be about 3/4 of that. Because as this dries, some of that powder is gonna fall off because it's not a pigment-based ink pad. But it'll be okay. Come on, start melting. There we go. It takes a little bit longer because you also are drying the paper as well as melting the crystals of the embossing powder. Okay? Hey Erin, how are you? I just looked over. Sorry. 7 minutes, but hey, I'm here. So, we're gonna get this going. Like I said before, it takes a little bit longer because you are drying the paper as well as melting those crystals. So be a little bit patient with it, and if you notice that your powder starts to turn color, or your paper's curling too much, or your cardstock is starting to turn colors, then you'll want to put your heat tool either further away or on a low setting if it has 2 clicks to it, depending on what you've got available to you. You do not want to use a hairdryer. It blows way too much air and you will lose most of the powder. Let me flip this around. But you'll lose most of the powder because instead of it focusing on heat, it's focusing on airflow that moves. And so a hairdryer is not a good option for this specific application. Okay, so you want to make sure to have a heat tool. Even if it's not from Stampin' Up, you want to make sure to have a heat tool and not a hairdryer. Okay? The hairdryer you can get away with when you're doing baskets and whatnot and you're doing the shrink plastic, but honestly, even then it's better to have a heat tool. So, alright, so I've got that. That is my snowy background. Honestly, if it's too much white for you, you could have pulled some of the powder off. You can not have it as wet. Each background's going to be totally different. So you just got to figure it out and what you like. After you do a few, you will figure it out, I promise. Okay, so with that, I'm trying to figure out which side is down. I think it's going to be like this because the heavier stuff sets down on the bottom, right? That's how snowstorms usually work. Hey, Shawnee, how are you, hun? I explained about the valleys and the mountains, so I think I do that every time for you now. Make sure you have the fold of the card good. We all have our things. For the longest time, I could not remember how to do the snail adhesive. I always had it upside down. So we all have our things we have to get past, right? Okay. So let's see. I'm actually going to do it this way. And then I've got my snowman, but it needs more, right? It always needs more. So I'm going to grab some doilies and see if that helps. Because it's so white of a background, I'm noticing that there's not a lot to offset it. Yeah, that's what I needed. So now I've got what I need to make sure. Every card's different with this. That's the only problem with this. Because your background is going to look different each and every time. Oh, hello. That came out. Because your background is going to look different each and every time, you're going to want to make sure to have some doilies on hand or some embellishments or something because of how different it's going to come out each and every time. When I did the copper this morning, I hardly had any on it and kept saturating it and actually couldn't hardly get a background at all. So it just really depends on how dry your powder is. It really depends on how fast you're heating things, how dry your room is, what your climate is outside. You know, it's almost like baking a cake. So if it's a wetter day, your cake's gonna not be as light and fluffy. So you want to make sure that you have what you need when you're doing that, right? Okay. So with that, you just got to be flexible on how things work. And sometimes you got to be more flexible than not. So I'm going to stick some glue dots down on this snowman. And I was thinking about the fact that normally I would think dimensionals, but because this has arms that are kind of loose, I don't actually want it to stick up, if that helps you. I want it to be on there as much as possible so it doesn't get yanked around. Okay? So the last little piece we're gonna do is we're gonna put some textured snow on here. So I'm gonna grab my silicone sheet and I'm gonna grab my multi-purpose glue. I'm gonna grab my Stampin' Glitter. Yeah. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my Q-tip and I'm gonna squeeze out here. You will not want to do this over your card. You will want to do it to the side, but I'm trying to get it so you can see, okay? So I'm just gonna squeeze out till the tip of the top tip, the top of my Q-tip is pretty much saturated. And then I'm just gonna dab, 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 okay? And I'm gonna keep going with this. And I'm dabbing because I want it to be the texture of snow. I don't want to have a straight streak across, and I don't want it to be all in one place. I just really want it to look like snow. So with this, the reason I use a Q-tip instead of the tip is because when I'm sprinkling on the glitter, I do not want to have my tip of my glue inside of my glitter. So I need to have it be on its own so I don't end up with a really gooey, glittery glue tip. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure there's tons of glitter on here because I want it to stand out. And the main thing I'm going for is texture here, but okay, so that's what I've got. Obviously it's not going to translate well on the camera, but it will translate really well on the actual card. So I'm going to see how much of this falls off, some of it, and that's okay. So that's what I've got. I don't know if you can see my snow. Okay, so obviously if you have less of a white background, then your snow's gonna come out more. It just really depends on every single card. So, okay, so that's what I have for tonight. Follow me, stampingwithjohnny.com, and I will have some more news and some swaps and all kinds of stuff for you next week when I come back. And I think that's all I have for you. So enjoy. Make sure that you use different powders and different ways of doing this and different ways of getting the water onto your cardstock. So that way you can have it look differently every single time. Okay, so that's what I have tonight. Enjoy, go play, go create, have some fun, go have some creative opportunities, not mistakes. And I think that's all for tonight. So have fun, talk to you later, and go create. Bye-bye.